Assalamu alaikum, everyone. I hope everybody is good. We are live, and if someone can just comment so we know that you are able to see and hear us properly. And today is one of the sessions that even in the post I mentioned that I was really looking forward to, and I have planned for this for so long, because this is something that parents need to know about. This is something as a parent I believe in, I support, because I've seen my life and my son's life changing positively due to ABA. And I just get sad when I hear some negatives about it, and I know that I've seen it, that it is not the case. So, but because on the social media platforms, I've seen people have discussed about the negative points and the researches that are against ABA without having a proper behavioral analysis input on it. So I wanted to have the best I know, the most hardworking people, which have really changed the game for our special needs in Pakistan. And I'm so honored and I'm so proud of them. And I think because they're so hardworking, hence they're so busy, and still they were able to take out time and come to my page and talk about this. So I'm so grateful, everybody. You could join in. We have Isma Khan. Nobody needs, I think I'll just say the name, nobody of them needs any introduction. Isma Khan, the star of ABA in Pakistan. Ghalia, she works in Islamabad, and mashallah, the way she has started doing it, it's amazing. Areesa Chinoy, my son's favorite, the most special person in our journey. She changed my life, my son's life, and I'm so happy that I have someone from a behavioral world that helps us, guides us on so many levels. So thank you so much, guys.
Thank you for having us, Tooba, and for doing this.
Thank you, Tooba.
Okay, just before we start and jump in, Faiza Bamani has having a training at her center. She's just got free and she'll join us in a few minutes. So I'll just start with the most common question and concern that I hear and read anywhere when I talk about and write about ABA, and which is that it is not a scientifically proven treatment. It's not something that is proven to be work on humans. It is something that has been worked on animals, and now it has been shifted to humans without having any scientific evidence for it. Anyone, if you want to start.
ABA is evidence-based. Agar evidence-based na ho, then we would not be doing it on people. There is a lot of research that backs up what we do. You know, we just didn't come out of nowhere. It wasn't that somebody woke up in one day and decided, oh, chalo ABA karte hain. It's not that. There's a lot of basic research. Jitna bhi theories of learning thi, there was so much of research that we took and we put it into an applied setting. We tried it out, and when we bring our strategies to the clinic, to the center, we do it through research. There were some evidence-based research because of which now we know that this works. This has worked in the past and it should work. Also, every treatment program that we design is designed based on individual client, but every strategy that we use has been implemented in the past, has research paper behind it, and it works. And that's how we bring that to the clinic.
Before we continue to that, I just want to welcome Faiza and congrats on your another successful training day. I'm glad you could take out time for us.
Absolutely. I just got in. I'm like, no, I need to attend this. But I'm really happy to be here. Thank you so much for initiating this, actually. Really nice platform. Thank you.
Thank you for coming. And I think I was just mentioning about it, that this is something that I really wanted to talk about. So the first question, Faiza, that I asked them was that the most common thing that pops up against ABA is that it's not a scientifically proven or research-based treatment. So Afshaan just cleared upon that. If Isma, if you can say something about it.
Sure. So thank you for adding that in, Afshaan. And I'm going to add to that is that, as you said, ABA is is evidence-based. It's based on research. And I think in this day and age, even when we're looking at medicines or we're looking at anything, if you can repeatedly test something out and prove it to be effective, that means it is effective, essentially. And the great thing about ABA is, apart from the fact that it's evidence-based, it's also everything that we use and all the principles we use. There are multiple principles, but any principle we use is individualized and individually selected for the child. So if a child is getting individual goals based on their skill set, that is more likely to yield successful results, because the goals and the IEP or the intervention plan is individualized for that child. And that is also what makes ABA to be a very effective form of intervention.
Yes, absolutely. And one thing that as a mother, I would say, because I think this is something, and I've seen your work too, but Areesa is the only one that I've seen one-on-one. But I've seen all of you, even in the videos that you upload, that you keep involving, like each and every step, you involve parents as well. And Areesa tells me, like in every step, she tells me that how will it will be effective, like what's the theory and what's the logic. And that is what attracts me to ABA, that there is so much logic to it. And I think without being scientifically proven, how could someone have such a strong logic behind the treatments? Areesa, if you would like to add something to that.
You know, actually, because my main area of expertise before I went into ABA was psychology. The thing that drew me the most to ABA is the fact that everything is evidence-based. As a psychologist, we go with theory, right? So it's like, I believe this because of this theory. And with time, all the theories get disproven and another theory comes out. But nothing in psychology is, it's kind of like a probability that it is right. With ABA, the thing I love the most about it is that I can try something and I can check to see, I've selected something that has worked in so many different settings in the past in exactly this kind of setup. And then after that, I can assess to see whether what I've tried actually works or not. So that is a thing that I feel that ABA has really added to my skill set. Just because it gives me like a proper, you know, when I can tell the parents that, look, this is how it looks in the graph, this is where your child's at, I've chosen this because these are the type of steps that took place in the past, and I can prove that it works, which is, I think, the best part about it.
Absolutely, I agree. Ghalia, Faiza, if you want to add something to that.
I think they pretty much covered everything.
Yeah, they've covered everything, honestly. Just wanted to add that it's something that you see happening every single day.
Yes,
so what is there to actually say that it's not scientifically proven when you see it happening all around you? It's not about just ABA being suited to children with autism. Whatever we do, like for all the people who are watching us right now, why are they watching us? Because they have attended some live sessions in the past. They have gotten some information out of it, so they will continue doing it. That's their pattern of learning, isn't it? And this is what ABA is all about, that you look at the learning history, right? And then you devise interventions based off on that, and there is so much more to it. But it's something that you see happening every day. आप रोज देखते हैं कि लोग अपने past की learning से अपने future के behaviors को जो, that's what it is. Qaiser, please, over to you.
Absolutely. I feel like I agree with everyone. Isma, Afshaan, Ghalia, Areesa, they have made such great points. And I completely agree because ABA is personalized. I think the techniques that we use in ABA, they are evidence-based. It depends on how the person is using them. So you have to change that myth, you know, the way that you're doing it. It's about the implementation, not about the protocol itself, how you're doing it. That's what matters. So if it's personalized, it's individualized, and it's carefully implemented, you will see a difference and see the successful collaboration with other professions as well. Then you'll see the improved and selected targets in the child. You have to just make sure that you are personalizing the treatment. That's it. And go with it.
And I think one thing that I like is that, sorry, Faiza, you was, please you complete your sentence.
I finished it. I was
just saying that this is something that even if, like when during quarantine, when I was taking online sessions with from Areesa, and I was applying it. So even when something was not working, had a reason behind it. Either it was my way of doing it, and Areesa pointed that out, that you know what, I think if you change this way of doing it and try this way, it would work, and it worked. So if even if something is not working, it has like a logic behind it. As I say this word logic, that is why it attracts me, that there is knowledge behind it, there is proper research behind it that supports the treatment.
I'd like to add one thing. And what we don't really see over here is a lot of people care about behavior a lot. What's the behavior? What's happening with the child? What should we change? No, people don't really understand what's happening before and what's happening right after. We need to see the full picture, not just the behavior itself. We need to see what's happening right before, what's triggering the behavior, and how are we responding to that behavior. That changes a lot of things. That automatically either increases or decreases the behavior. So I think this general knowledge ABA is teaching all of us. And now we are raising awareness, thankfully, that it's not this is the behavior that we care about, it's the overall environment, antecedent behavior and consonants, everything all together. Isma, you were saying something.
Yeah, and actually, just to add to what Faiza just said, what I want to say is, as we were using the word ABA is logical. Take something, for example, as understanding behavior, right? So in ABA, we discussed that there are 4 functions of behavior. There's attention, there's escape, there's access to something, and there's sensory. Now, when you think of these four antecedents or 4 functions of behavior, in other words, they say it's not really causes, but the reasons why children engage in these behaviors, it's very logical, because it's these 4 reasons are the reasons for how we also behave. It's not just about children and autistic or not autistic. We also behave either due to attention or because we want access to something, we want to escape something. All our behavior is driven by some form of trigger, as Faiza said, or motivator. So apart from just the evidence factor, it's very logical because it makes complete sense and it's relatable to all humans, because it's all about human behavior essentially. And that's what makes it so powerful, because everyone can then relate and understand to it if it's presented in the right way.
And that's why ABA works for all humans, whether they're young or old. Whether they have a diagnosis or they don't. And it works on animals too, because we're all living beings and we pretty much function the same way.
That's yet another myth, that it only works with children with autism. That's
I was actually, that was on my list, that there are 2 questions that I've merged right now, because now it's out there, that one, that it's only for children, and second is it's only for autism. So if Ghalia, you would like to start with that.
Yeah, that's completely untrue, because एक तो उसके पीछे factor ये भी है कि in Pakistan it's still an emerging field and it has been started with kids with autism. And we have globally it has been used in sports, right? It's been used in rehab with drug addicts, with criminals. It has been used in such a variety of different settings. So, like I said before, you see it happening all around you. You see it in your family, you've seen it in adults, you see it in children. You're going to see it in animals as well, right? So and one thing I'd like to add is, like every science, ABA2 is evolving. Because दिन ब दिन नई research हो रही है. Today's ABA is not the same ABA जो कि कहीं 1857 में कहीं था, right? ये लोवास की जो techniques थी या it has evolved with time. We have figured out that this was more ethical, this was unethical. जो unethical part था वो हम पीछे छोड़ा है. अब इतना restricted नहीं है. Client के rights को ज़्यादा हम support करते हैं, which is of course is going to be an ongoing conversation, but it's evolving every single day. So not everything has to be by the book. You need to see कि अच्छा अगर इसका evidence है, maybe past में evidence हो, अब ना हो, that could also be one thing.
Yeah. Isma, if you want to add to this, that it's just for autism, because I remember when I talked to you about this session, you really mentioned that you wanted to talk about the myths regarding ABA just for being autism.
Right. I mean, there are myths about ABA and there are myths about autism. So I don't know which one to cover, but I can just kind of do like a bit of an overlap. But to add to that myth, essentially, is that, as I already said, ABA, the principles apply to not only autistic children, it applies to all humans, number one. But number two, a myth, let's say, even regarding autism, is that they say that there's some people believe that there's these children have a look and they don't look autistic, or and I just want to clarify that there's no look for individuals with autism. I mean, I know children with Down syndrome, or let's say other developmental disorders, might have more prominent features perhaps, but for autism that isn't necessarily the case. And aside from that, regarding therapy, I think one of the biggest things I want to highlight is that there are all sorts of practitioners in the world who implement ABA, right? We all probably share similar, we all use the same principles and might implement it differently, which is absolutely fine. I think what happens and where the miss happens is when people take the principles and apply it in a way and are very, very rigid on certain things. And I think it's when that happens that parents seem to think that, oh, autism, ABA therapy is very rigid, or it makes children to be robotic. But really, is it to do with ABA, or is it to do with the practitioner who is implementing it in a rigid manner? Because I think we could be using the exact same principles as, let's say, somebody who is using it in a really strict way, and they're like, no, escape extinction, which means continue to run demand regardless of the child crying and banging their head. Whereas somebody else would say, okay, the child is crying, but maybe we kind of hold back the demand, let them calm down, and then kind of fade in our demand. So again, we're tackling maybe the same issue, but it depends on who is implementing it and how they interpret the ABA technique to implement it. But the ABA principle per se is not at all something that makes a child robotic or rigid. I don't know, maybe Areesa or Qaiser or anyone else can add to that.
I agree with that. I actually think the biggest myth for me that I hear about ABA is that ABA is robotic. They believe that ABA is basically a sequence of cards you put on the table and you shuffle it around and you ask the same questions again and again and again. I think that is possibly because ABA in the past has been used that way, but is not, by definition, that is not ABA only. That's just one type of a protocol of ABA, you know, and it kind of depends on the practitioner. But as you know, for all of us, we all have to complete 32 CEUs every 2 years to maintain our license, right? And that CEU actually makes sure that we are updated with research. So because we have to actually go out there and we have to continue studying, because by profession, we can't remain BCBAs unless we do have that. It makes us, we have best practices because we continuously have to study, we continuously have to learn new research, new things out there. And you know, if I work with a child of a particular type, I will choose to do credits that match the group of kids I work with. Automatically, I will learn more. It is one of the only fields I feel that has this demand that we continuously change our practice based on the up-to-date research. So the robotic side of ABA, I think, is probably things that were implemented a long time ago. And I think it's probably people who are not probably actually credentialed. You know, they're probably not people who are RBTs, BCBA. They're probably not people in the field, because in the field, I believe we all have to study lots. And I believe we all have to keep updating. And we're all not likely to use the same kind of strategies that people who are practicing not in the field would use.
Yeah, and I think just to add on that, there's this, like, if I add to that robotic, that ABA does not teach a child how or why to do something. It only trains them to behave in a certain way, because of which the child now will not, we are not getting rid of the behavior. The child is now getting trained for a certain behavior, and that training is something that the parents are not get offensive about, I guess. But I just want to add to this, that this is what we are doing, I think, in our daily life, even as parents, that when we want to reinforce a child, if my child did listen to me or followed a command, I do want him to repeat that. And we do certain things. Sometimes parents, if we are not talking about special needs, in the general days, that if I see out there that if a child is in a utility store screaming for chocolates, the mother is screaming at the child that, you know what, you cannot get this chocolate right now, or anything, or the child is being praised because he or she got 80 out of 100, and they are out in the shop getting a toy, and they are reinforcing the child with a toy. So that is what also the parents are doing it on daily basis, but they don't realize that if a trainer is
Yes.
sorry, as you were saying
Absolutely.
something.
Yeah, they don't realize that's what they're doing. They're doing ABA on a daily basis. They don't realize what they're doing. I get it.
Yeah,
That makes
and then
so much
again,
sense.
even that will make the child do or say something that the parents are getting him trained for. Maybe the child does not understand, then what happens to that? So I just wanted to talk about that, and how ABA, as BCBAs, you support this. That how do you make our parents understand that we are not just training them to, like a hunter, that if the hunter is there, the lion will sit on the stool. It's not like that.
Yeah, Tuba, I just wanted to add a bit on that. That what I feel, two main reasons that people consider it as like ABA making children robotic या ABA abuse की तरफ लेके जाता है. So the two main reasons that I see happening is when the wrong kind of ABA is practiced. Number one, जिसमें generalization पे काम नहीं होती, just tabletop पे आप इस तरह से intensive teaching आप करते जा रहे हैं, you are not generalizing it to the natural environment, you are not making the skill functional for the child. ठीक है कि अगर एक स्किल उसने सीखा है, let's say matching pictures, how is that skill going to be effective in the natural environment? Natural environment teaching आप जब तक आप incorporate नहीं करेंगे, how is it going to be functional? See, the wrong kind of ABA. So there is no generalization. Number two is the use of restraint procedures. Now this is the big one. Even as BCBAs, I'm sure Qaiser, Areesa, Ismail, Afshaan, you all remember, जब हमने अपना BCBA का कोर्स वर्क किया था, तो there was an entire one course dedicated to just ethics, right? So this is a huge part which is missing क्योंकि हमारी यहाँ universities number one ABA पढ़ा ही नहीं रही. ठीक है, so this huge chunk of ethics जो कि पढ़ाना चाहिए, people who are certified in ABA and people who are practicing in ABA, the number is different. In Pakistan, you will find a lot of people practicing it, but a very small number who is actually certified and licensed to do it, right? Which is the reason that wo ethics wala part, we leave it out somewhere, right? So who is going to teach those people who don't have any certification in it? Who is going to teach them the ethics part? Kya karna hai, kab kya restraint hame allow hai, nahi hai, kaun se procedures hai, escape extinction karna hai, nahi karna. So who is going to tell them that? So these are the two main things that I think lead to such a misconception as well.
And can I
Isma, please.
And another thing which I hear every time I give a talk is reinforcers. अच्छा, अगर आप reinforcer इस्तेमाल करेंगे तो फिर बच्चा dependent नहीं हो जाएगा reinforcer पे, फिर आपको हर वक्त reinforcer देना होगा. Does anyone else relate to this?
Absolutely. Every time.
So that's what I want to clarify, is that reinforcement and bribery especially. So see, the thing is, when you're working with these children, it's very important to keep in mind, let's say we're talking about autistic children, okay? Let's take that as an example. Or children who have lack of communication or developmentally delayed. Now, if you want them to understand certain things, they will not understand the way a typical child in typical school would. I think we have established that. It's not because they're not intelligent. They are very intelligent. In fact, their intelligence is possibly higher than even a typical child, but it's more the way they understand things. They're visual learners. They understand through experience. If I tell a child, sign for water and you'll get water, they're not going to know what that means. But if I make them sign water and I give them water and I make them sign water, I say water, I give them water, they make the association between the sign, water, item, water, okay? So what happens in a situation like that is as they experience the motion of doing this and getting water, they learn things. Now, similarly, if we are to work with a child who doesn't understand certain things, how am I to tell a child that, oh, when I clap, you did something right? Because for some children, clapping or praise may not work. It's not, a typical child might want a golden star or a pat on the back, but for our kids, it's a little bit different. They instead relate to reward that they want and then that they like. So People often believe that, okay, if you use rewards, that means that the child is always going to need rewards. But what I always say is, what is the concept of a reward? The reward is to tell a child that you're doing something right and you want them to increase the likelihood that they engage in that behavior. And by providing that reward, you are allowing yourself and the child to learn a lot more, because by having a reward, you can expose them to so many things. If you are to teach them toothbrushing, you can use a reward. Otherwise, how are they to know they're doing it correctly? If you are to teach them how to communicate, if you are to teach them life skills, changing their clothes, you reward them. And it's in our day-to-day lives. I always say this. I said, when you do a job and you get a bonus, you are getting that now. It's not like you got a golden star when you were small and you never got a reward again. Rewards continue throughout life, and that's okay. We work on reward as well. We get a salary, or the fact that our child responds to us and learns a word is a reward for us. So rewards are not a bad thing. It's okay to give rewards, but yes, over time you can reduce them, but you don't have to eliminate rewards, because we all work by reinforcement anyway. So that was just something I want to add.
That makes a lot of sense. To add to that, this is a question that I also get every single time, and I feel like there's one more thing that I'd like to add. What Isma just said, reward is something that's necessary, but a lot of people don't understand is you can also fade it. You can fade it to your social praise. If you don't want to give a tangible out, if you don't want to give an edible, that is fine. Give it until you're not paired with the child, and as soon as you are, why don't you fade it out? So just say good job, so that even your good job means way more than an iPad, or let's say any cookie or anything else. Start with that. Everything takes time, right? Start with reinforcement, with rewards, and then fade it out to your social praise. And that way they're not dependent on a lot of things. They're depending on your reinforcement. So this way you're not also dependent on a lot of things. So I think a brilliant
I think I'll share one example over here. Areesa, of course, I only have Areesa example, but I'll share her. That my son, when he started making eye contact with her, so he and Areesa, whenever she praised him, he craved for that praise. And when if he gave one right answer, Areesa, we used to praise, and Zoren used to get very excited, that Areesa is smiling at me, she is looking at me, and then he started craving for it. So then she started feeding it, and now I will praise him after when he's done the whole activity. So I remember as soon as he used to give the right answer, he used to look at Areesa, and Areesa used to look down. He used to wait that why isn't she praising me, and then he used to work harder to get the praise, and then he used to complete the task so that he can get the praise. And
increasing the requirement, increasing the response requirement, and then
slowly,
absolutely brilliant.
Even it was like a break. I remember she started introducing break after every activity. Then we were at that throughout the session. He was not looking for break, because this is how Areesa told him that this is the reinforcer when you have completed all the activities. So I think this is and initially he used to get praised after every single correct answer. If I'm not wrong, Areesa.
No, you're completely correct. Yeah.
I'll also add here that even typical kids, even adults, we all have different rewards. Something that could be rewarding for you, Tooba, could be not as much rewarding for me, and vice versa. Typical kids, some kids are really attention driven and they really love praise. Others, not so much. They probably don't like the attention and they prefer maybe a star or a sticker or their names on the boards. Our kids are the same. Yes, they do initially require more tangible reinforcers, like something edible, something they can touch, something they can play with, but we're constantly pairing that with praise. We're constantly pairing that with more non-tangible reinforcers, whether it's a praise, it's a high five, it's a fist bump, it's a pat on the back, it's a little pat on the head. So when we are fading those tangibles out, we are able to maintain some kind of a reinforcer that is not requiring a piece of candy all the time, or that is not requiring a huge toy with them all the time. So it's a very systematic way. We don't just stop giving them candy and start saying good job. We're constantly pairing that good job with the candy, and then over time, just like आपने बोला कि Zoren के response requirement increase की, same way we'll do that. will increase the response requirement for that candy, but for every response, he's still getting good job, nice work, high five. So we're increasing our non-tangible reinforcers while decreasing tangibles, and that's how we fade it out. It's done in a very, very systematic way.
Yeah.
But I think just one more thing I wanted to add to that. I feel like reinforcement is actually for all of us. Like, we work with kids, and when the kids do well, that's our reinforcement, right? Yeah. And it makes us work harder the next time for the kids to do even better. So I feel like reinforcement is not always just an item that you give someone. We all have reinforcements. That's how we function day to day. We wake up in the morning because going to work can be a reinforcement. We go to work to get paid as a reinforcement even. Yeah. All these things are reinforcers. Essentially, I feel like the world just functions as long as we all have something that we work for.
Absolutely.
And not just in therapy, which is, I think, like a misconception. I think everyone feels that, a lot of people feel that the reinforcement is done only in therapy. It's only an item that you give it. I think some people feel like a reward is the reinforcement. They don't it's not always just that reward. I think it's important to know that all of us do things for something. Whatever
something or the other is reinforcing for us.
Exactly.
Yeah. Exactly.
And this is how we work.
Yeah.
And a few comments that I got when I posted, I was just telling them that when I posted about this session, there were many things that I was getting negative comments in the inbox as well, and the post. One of it was that I'm from Karachi and I have started feeling this due to attitude of therapists. Not all autistic kids are same, but they take and deal with them as same. Everybody pace is different, but I am pushed to believe that this is of no use, and as I have seen that if a child is tough to handle, they put everything on the parent. And I'm sorry to say, I feel that it's humiliating for a parent who keep child 24/7 and you are given for 30 minutes only.
This is nothing wrong with the science. It's the person that's the problem here.
Thank you. That was
the problem.
Mm-hmm.
I would say actually, I will say from a parent point of view that there are many parents who put everything on the therapist, and then they feel that our job is done. I still remember when I started this page and I used to send people to the people who I know and I believe in. Then there was some feedback, that there's no change at home. He's doing the same thing like he used to do before, and I'm paying such a heavy amount, and why do I have to put in? It's the responsibility of the therapist. And I believe that it's more, no matter if you're going to the best, you're paying heavy amounts, is definitely, again, it's your job as a parent that you need to generalize. The part when Ali was saying that, generalizability nahi aati itni, yahan pe bhi sabse ahem role is for parents. Whenever, even if Areesa was teaching him on a card, Areesa used to tell me, you go at home and give him the object and ask if he's able to differentiate, if he's able to play or do with the similar action with the object. And he was able to, because he was able to generalize. And that was my role, because in a setting, how much a therapist can put in. And I must say that it is such an exhausting therapy, I would believe, for the therapist, because I see the way, I see your videos, I see Areesa, and sometimes all the therapists that are involved in with special needs, it's a very hard thing to do. And parents believe that it's now just your responsibility, the therapist, it's not parents. This is something
I'd like
that
to add something here.
Yes.
I think this message can be taken into a different perspective as well. For example, you see where she's coming from. She must have had some negative experiences in the past, definitely, right? So how can we change that? I'd say that. First, let's see if she's saying that everything is left on the parents. How about we change that a little bit in a way that if she's working with someone else, she should specify a few things. Even the supervisor, the therapist itself, what they should do is make it a bit easier for the parents. Maybe instead of just telling them this is what you're supposed to do at home, give them a list of the things they're supposed to do, and they just write everything down. So they just need to do a check. This is what I did. Yes, this is what instead of overwhelming them with a lot of things that they need to do at home. I feel like that's where even we go wrong, that we expect a lot. So I think you need to make sure that your response requirement go higher slowly. So instead of asking the parents to do everything from the beginning, you are supposed to do all these things from day one at home. I think this is a huge ask. So I think they slowly you should say, okay, today let's focus on this. How about I make you a list, and then you just put a tick on, yeah, you did that or you didn't do that. Make a video if possible, and then slowly we'll take from there, instead of just overloading every single thing that you have done to the parent. So I feel like that's where the negativity starts rising. So you need to make sure that you're making it easier for both of you, for yourself and the parent as well. So these things won't occur in the future. That's what I think. I don't know what you all think.
I would also say, as a parent, it's not that we as professionals are dumping our therapy on you. And we don't want you to feel, KG, we take our kids to you. You guys are supposed to do the therapy, and you guys are supposed to treat my child. And then at the end of the day, we're telling them to do things, and they're like, well, why did I bring my child to you, and why am I paying you? It's just that your child is spending majority of the time with you in the house. वो therapy में 30 minutes 1 hour के लिए आ रहा है, but he's spending the rest 23 hours with you at home. If we can't expect you to do that, that 1 hour is not going to make as big of a change. We need consistency.
Yeah.
So we do require you to do it, not because we want to dump our jobs on you, but because this is what's best for your child. We're doing the best we can within that limited time, but we want you to do the same as much as you can at home, so your child's getting consistency. And the more ABA they're going to get, the more consistent environment they're going to get, the more it's going to benefit that child. Areesa is able to do as much as she can with Zorain, but then Tooba, you have to catch up. You have to do stuff with him at home. It doesn't just end with that therapy. And it's the same thing.
And Afshaan, this was how sometimes it did get overwhelming, because I was doing sensory exercises with him as well, and I was doing my job also, and I cannot quit that job because I have to earn and everything, and it used to get overwhelming. But I did train myself that what, I need to make it more exciting so that I also enjoy, instead of it's something that I have to do. So I made it a joyful experience for myself and my son. And just then after that, even just collecting data got so exciting for me. I used to send Areesa like bunch of emails, I collected this data. And then it made me understood that now I am able to understand my son's behavior and patterns. And then after that, even if Areesa don't ask me, I do have that at home. It helps me understand that, what, there were days, there are patterns, like something happened, what was that, I'm able to catch up with that, and it helps me. And this is only thing I think I understood because of ABA. I was never aware that I was able to catch up small changes, and that would help me as a parent. And then my son started trusting me, because he would know, okay, I am able to understand what's going on because of this reason. I was not trying to force him for something, because I got to know, okay, there's some reason behind it. And that is how ABA helped me as a parent. So I think it's all about how you take it. If you're going to take it as a burden, of course you're going to feel the burden, and then you're going to transfer that anxiety to your child as well. But if you make it a learning experience.
To add to what Qaiser was saying as well about breaking the steps down. The reason why it's the entire work is so difficult sometimes is because it's not the child that you are working with. It's also the parents जिनके साथ आप ABA कर रहे होते हो. So in ABA, what do? We break down complex things like hand washing and teeth brushing into smaller steps. तो अगर एक चीज उनको बहुत overwhelming लग रही है, वो follow up नहीं कर पा रहे, you break it down into more steps and make it easier for them. And what I think is number one aspect जिसकी वजह से major issues create होते हैं is communication, right? आप communicate वहाँ से भी नहीं parents कर पा रहे that we're not able to do it, they're not able to tell you this, and आप भी उनको नहीं communicate कर पा रहे effectively that अगर आप इस तरह से नहीं तो ऐसे कर लीजिए, right? So rigidity on both ends, it can cause problems. And Tooba, there was someone who was asking in the comment section if you'd allow me to answer that question.
Yeah, sure.
So she's saying that. Coming back to my point about keeping yourself updated and the course about ethics, she's saying that it's hard to take the proper class and we are already engaged with taking sessions. It's so much expensive. I understand getting certified has its cost. One way that they can do it still is there is an entire journal of applied behavior analysis, and content of that is available online. There needs to be this practice in individuals who are working with these children. Professionals के अंदर हमें ये habit जो है ना inculcate करने की जरूरत है कि research articles पढ़ें. It is all available online. You don't even need to invest such a very heavy amount in it. The entire journal is available online. ठीक है, कुछ उनके articles ऐसे हैं जो कि free available हैं. कोई ऐसी practice जो आप कर रहे हैं and you might want to know more about it, whether it's used effectively, whether it's evidence based or not, go and read more about it. It's not only limited to being certified.
I agree. And I think research and reading research helps a lot. Isma, you were saying something.
No, yeah, you're right. Reading research does help. And just to add to also another thing is which I found it actually blew me away was you know how we've been talking about how parents. So look, what's the point in all of this conversation we've just had about therapy and parents? What is the point? The point is for the child to reach their maximum potential and learn, right? The mother wants a child to learn, we want the child to learn. But the difference is obviously the mother gets a lot more time with the child, we get a lot less time with the child. So I think with this comment that this parent has obviously posted, fair enough, they sound a little frustrated, which is okay, it happens. I think what's very important is to then communicate, find that middle ground and set clear expectations as well from both ends. But what I want to say is what I learned in COVID is that obviously for a certain period, I think most of us were shut, so we weren't taking on clients in person. And I remember I moved some of my clients online. So what did online mean? Online therapy, at least for us at iCare, meant that the parent sat with the child. It wasn't that the child just said, "Oh, I teach them," because that was not at all possible with the clients that I was dealing with. So instead, what we did was mom sat with the child, table, Joby activities, set it up like a therapy, like because they've seen what we do. And then, and mind you, of the couple of clients, 2-3 were not vocal, which means they had no speech. Okay, so they were communicating through sign language. And these kids used to come to me an hour a day or so, 5 days a week. So the mother started implementing the strategies that I trained her on in COVID online. Now, she already was a little trained by me, but because she was regularly taking this child session in my supervision, she became pretty much a behavior therapist, is what I call her, because she was so trained. And honestly, within 1 month, both of the clients became vocal. So this just showed they actually started speaking with the mom, not me. So I'm not taking credit for it. It's all due to mama's credit, because mama not only sat and learned with me, she then took those principles and implemented it all day long. And that is what shows that parents, sure, you can be defensive or you can say that, oh, the therapist didn't do this or half an hour they did this. Sure, ethically, that's also fine. Therapists also need to act in an ethical manner. That's important. So I'm not saying the therapists are not to blame. Some may be. That's okay too. But it's not a battle here. What you need to just keep in mind is you want the best for your kid. So you got to put the effort in. And look, with these moms, and these moms were sorts who, you know, it brings you down. It brings you, it's difficult. It's difficult. So, but then they felt so pumped up and motivated every time they'd have a session that they implemented all day. And then these kids had such phenomenal results. Consistency, all because of consistent implementation. Home therapy. So that is what you need to remember. For parents watching today, it's not about, it's about teamwork. We work together, we will achieve all the results. We work against each other, we ain't achieving no results. So that's very important.
Absolutely. And thank you so much, Isma, for saying that. This is a very important point. And parents need to understand that, yes, you are paying therapists a heavy amount, and yes, they have less time for that. But again, you both have the same goal. You both want your child to improve, and it's teamwork. Absolutely. And one comment that I got, and Isma, you and I got a little negative points on that ABA is a good technique as long as reinforcements is not a junk. Tooba, in one of your articles, you said that you use chips sometimes, and Isma Khan, I've seen she uses Kokomo in her video. What do you have to say for that?
Okay, so I'm not very clear on what exactly the question is. Could you just
That
clarify?
ABA is a good technique as long as there's no junk food involved as a reinforcer.
Okay, so they're saying okay, right. So now, okay, reinforcement can be anything. Look, junk, no junk. Of course, in our life, healthy food and vegetables is great. If your kid loves cucumber sticks and carrot sticks as a reinforcer, amazing, use them. But it doesn't work for all the kids.
Yeah, it doesn't.
So
Not
it doesn't, right? I mean, hummus and like carrot sticks, sure. So
that would be a dream, no?
Hey, I have a client. He works only for veggies and fruits.
Wow.
amazing.
Incredible.
One of my clients wouldn't take French fries as a reinforcer. It's like kids do like healthy stuff too. It depends.
Yeah, and Areesa started teaching counting. She asked me to bring in carrot pieces. My son hates, he doesn't eat anything that is healthy, anything. And I don't know how he get the sense that this is something healthy, I should not take it in the mouth, and this is something unhealthy, it should definitely go in my mouth. So I got carrot pieces in square shape so it wouldn't resemble as carrots. And immediately he knew that this is something that I would not take it in mouth. And he did it.
Smart.
Because Tooba, you managed to teach him to generalize the carrots can be long sticks so they can be squares.
Maybe.
Good generalization. But actually, to get back to that question, which is I totally respect that, which is unhealthy snacks. So I understand not all reinforcers need to be unhealthy. आप बिल्कुल सही कह रही हैं. देखिए हम नहीं कह रहे कि पूरी वक्त आपको unhealthy snacks ही देना चाहिए. लेकिन अगर बच्चा सिर्फ उसी चीज से मोटिवेट हो रहा है और उससे काम भी हो रहा है साथ साथ, क्यों नहीं? वरना अगर कोई reinforcer काम नहीं हो रहा, अगर हम if we use something really healthy और वो उस चीज से मोटिवेट नहीं हो रहे तो वो सीखेंगे नहीं, और अगर वो सीखेंगे नहीं तो फिर हम कैसे सिखाएंगे? तो उस वजह से मैं नहीं कह रही कि आपको पूरा वक्त कोकोमो देना है या पूरा वक्त आईपैड देना है या पूरा वक्त चिप्स देना है, लेकिन जिस वक्त आप सिखा रहे हैं आप थोड़ा सा दे सकते हो. और एक और चीज मैंने कहना है कि it's not about just giving the whole kokomo or the full kokomo packet. You will notice when we give junk, we never give a whole packet or a big chip.
Yeah.
We always give munna pieces. Why? Because it makes the child remain interested because they want more, so they're not full. So, and also it makes them want to work more for it. So even if you use junk, you can actually, I use in 1 hour therapy with one of my clients, 1 jelly bean for 1 hour. Now imagine how many pieces I break that 1 jelly bean into. So I'm still using junk, but one, and it's a vitamin B. Vitamins for chote hote na, bachon ki jelly gummies. So it's healthy as well. But what I'm saying is that you can use junk as well. It's okay. As long as your child is motivated, use a bit, but just use it in small quantities. And it's okay.
Yeah. My son was completely hooked to like Lay's and juice, mango juice, Nestle. And nectar. It's not even home fresh juice, nectar, which is not good, I know. But if this is something for which my son will sit down, listen to me, and follow the command and learn something new, that's okay. And with time, that is my job, with the help of the therapist with me, that how do I fade this away and introduce something new. But for them right now, whatever the reinforcer is, even if it's a junk, it's chocolate, it's chips or whatever, I think as long as the child is sitting and learning and getting maximum from the session, that is what the target should be.
Just to add to that, so the other big thing is also that I think it's pairing, right? So when you start with a child, it makes sense. To be honest, you can't really make a child motivated to eat food because you have to give. A child is going to be the most reinforced by something they don't have available all the time. Right. If they are going to have water all the time, it's not going to work for water. You're going to give it to them eventually. They're only going to ask for something that you don't normally give them. So if you take away the kokomo and you say, yeah, that's it, I'm only going to give you the kokomo right in this session when you're sitting, that's great. Because then, first of all, it's like the most valuable thing because you're so excited because it's the only room you're going to get it. And, yeah, exactly. And the other thing is, the big one is that some of our kids have limited things that reinforce them at the beginning. And as therapists, we try to expand the different types of things for them to be exposed to different things. So even if Zuran only wants Lay's chips, now that's salted. Now we've worked on spicy. We've increased all the different types of chips that he works for. And it's not even, and pairing the high fives with the chips, eventually they eat even less chips. So I think that you just need to find the reinforcement in the beginning, but I think as therapists, we pair it up. So it's not that they're eating junk food every single day.
I don't even take any chips to the sessions anymore because it's not required now. It has faded away. So I think there's consistency and something.
Ultimate goal is social pairing, you pairing yourself with the child. Child is reinforced by you. You yourself are reinforcing to the child instead of anything else. So ultimate goal is, but in the beginning, if the child is new, you need a few things to pair yourself with. So that's where all of that comes from.
And even Tooba, in the reinforcer selection, it's very important to have the opinion of the parent. It's important to have that conversation. And about junk food, so many parents in Pakistan, globally, worldwide, जब हम बच्चों को स्कूल भी भेजते हैं, तो अक्सर बच्चों की लंच बॉक्स में होता ही जंक फूड है. It's also about what is being carried out at home, right?
Absolutely, I agree.
Some parents have that preference. Some specialized diet. तो उसको भी हमें माइंड में रखना पड़ता है कि अच्छा आप reinforced again, if there are gluten-free diet or a caffeine-free diet, you cannot just blindly give them something that they like, right? You need to be careful about that. So having that conversation with parents, keeping them in the loop about it, I think that also minimizes such performance coming up, right?
Yeah, they're saying that verbal reinforcement, positive communication can be used as well as basic everyday, like watching TV, playing on tablet. And again, then if you use tablet as a reinforcer, then the parents get offended that, you are increasing the screen time of the child. You need to change that. So I think it's all about, like Ghalia, like you said, it's all about getting the right reinforcer so that your child is able to, follow the commands during the session.
And limiting the amount of reinforcer they're getting. So we don't want to give them, screen time for a lot of time so that they're getting satiated on it. And then eventually it doesn't even work as a reinforcer. So, doing it within restricted amounts is also very important.
And also giving everything in one go. Like, take it all. That also doesn't work. You have to start one by one so that you have something for later as well, because the child will get bored of one activity. It's very normal. So you have to keep moving, keep changing reinforcers. You can't get stuck with one thing for a long time.
And initially, when I started, when it was very new, ABA for Zuren. I remember when I started doing at home, I was like learning something new and I was feeling like a behavioral therapist, very powerful. And I was doing it at home. And I remember people at my family members used to, just give it to him. Why are you making him do things? Why are you just pushing? And I remember I used to tell them, what, just see how will he follow and listen to me. And before, he never used to respond to his name. And he wanted, I think it was juice that I wasn't giving in. I asked that, get the glass from the table and sit on the sofa. And he actually went, and it was way back then. And at that time, even just responding to his name was a big deal for us. He went to the table, took the glass, sat on the sofa so that he can have the juice. And everybody was shook at my house that what just happened. He actually followed 3 steps just for the juice. And then I told them, see, this is why we need to control and use the reinforcer in the right way. I think this is something, and again, this is something I learned through ABA. I would have never known without ABA. And again, there's, I think, one of the very intense comment. ABA is abuse. It tortures autistic children and uses threat and manipulation to get children to deny their own natural way of being in order to behave in a way that therapist wants them to, punishing and breaking autistic soul so it behaves normal. It treats autistic children, especially like dogs, for ABA experiments.
Just take a moment to let that sink in.
I don't think so. It's a question, but it's mostly how they perceive as to be abusive because of, and here I want to take out the question, what about the punishments? What do you guys as BCBAs take, and what do you think about the use of punishments? What do you want to say about that?
Number one, the use of punishment in ABA is very different from what we punishment is. अगर हम कहते हैं कि अच्छा अगर like even if we are asking the child if a child is indulging in a maladaptive behavior and we tell them no nahi karo mana bhi kiya ja raha hai, even that is considered as reprimanding. That's a punishment procedure considered in ABA, right?
Yes.
So yeah, Isma and Qaiser, you can build up on that.
Absolutely, it makes so much sense, Galia. Like I was like, oh yes, I was literally imagining it, and I feel like punishment is like in the protocol as well. Punishment is our last resort. So I don't know the comment that has come. I think he must have seen a few videos, maybe traditional ABA videos, maybe.
Yeah.
Probably that person needs to update him or herself with the current practice that are going on, that the BCBAs are doing right now. I feel like punishment is the last resort, but right now our strategies are on reinforcement mostly. And as she said, reprimanding is also a punishment procedure. So ये तो फिर every day में ही parents भी घर में कहते रहते ये नहीं करो वो नहीं करो, तो ये भी तो punishment procedures ही. They don't understand this is punishment, but this is. So it also comes under ABA, but we don't use such words on a daily basis. We would rather use, how about we do this instead of saying, no, we're not doing that. Because हम actually इन चीज को reinforce करते हैं कि we shouldn't use such terminology if we can get away with something milder. How about we do it this first and then let's go forward. So I think this is something that we parents and everyone else needs to understand where we are coming from. कि हमारे लिए पनिशमेंट क्या है, क्या इंटेंसिटी तक जाती है. हम ये माइल्ड पनिशमेंट्स भी इतनी यूज नहीं करते, तो वो पनिशमेंट तो इट्स समवेयर ऑफ द चार्ट. So I think there are differences with traditional, like Alia said before, traditional behavior practices and what's happening right now.
This comment also talks about one thing, crushes the autistic score, right? So what they're trying to say is that a child with autism has their own personality, their own way of doing things. ABA crushes that. Two things that we work on, जो कि अब research ये कहती है कि there are client rights and there is a huge controversy about it. The behavior of stimming, ठीक है, hand flapping जिसको कहते हैं, इस पे बहुत ज़्यादा discussion होती है कि parents कहते हैं इसको रोक देना चाहिए. ठीक है, then we as professionals बहुत सारे लोग इस पे काम कर रहे हैं to stop it completely. Now, if you read about it online and in the communities where autistic adults are talking about it, and so what have we come to learn from it is that stimming, it's just like Isma mein hamesha aapki example use karti hu, like what happens if there is a mosquito that bites you, you're supposed to itch, right? That's how these kids feel, right? If they're not able to stim, it's a sensory need, it needs to be fulfilled. How would you like it if you're not allowed to scratch it? So that's when parents, and this example works really well. Every time parents understand it, gets let you. That's why I tell them, you cannot just stop a behavior. You need to look at the function of it. बच्चे के लिए वो चीज़ क्या function serve कर रही है. Yeah, if it helps them calm down, and maybe we can look at maybe reducing it to some extent or allowing them a certain space for it. कि अच्छा जब तुम घर से बाहर आए हो, तब आपने नहीं करना है घर के अंदर. There are different ways to go about it. And also eye contact. Eye contact को इतना बड़ा लोगों ने issue बना दिया है कि उस तक के बच्चा हमें देखता रहे. How would you feel if another person is just looking at you throughout 100% and talking to you, right? नहीं अच्छा जब वो request making भी कर रहा है throughout, जब तक बच्चा throughout when he's saying I want cookies, if he's not looking at you, they're like, oh बच्चा तो eye contact. We need to understand that there are things that make
and even if we are shy or we are uncomfortable, the first thing that we do is we stop making eye contact.
True. There's so much anxiety that comes, with such labels like autism hai. Like if the child is not able to communicate, there is so much anxiety that builds up. We need to honor that. या मुस्तकिल आप eye contact को आप target नहीं कर सकते. There's an extent that needs to be looked at.
Also, the child is not at eye level with you. It's additional effort. They have to look up to be able to even make that eye contact. And I believe that if they look at you in such a way that you know that you're being addressed, I think that's more than enough. You don't need an eye-to-eye contact. You don't need kitty up forces connect kare and all of that. As long as you know that this child is addressing me because they looked at you for a second and then they went back to doing whatever they were, but they responded to you, or they talked to you, they asked their question, but they're still doing something else. I think that's fine, because in our daily life, don't we do that all the time? you know, Peaches say somebody comes and talks to you, you look at them for a second, and then you're back to doing what you're doing. You'll still be talking to them. So I feel like, at least in my practice, it's very important that we see what we as adults are doing. We see what other typical kids are doing, and then somewhat keep that as a threshold versus, you know, being more rigid about it. And that's what now the ABA is. We're trying to keep it to where we're like, okay, this is just part of this kid's personality, and it's not disruptive, it's not bothering anyone, there's nothing wrong with it. We're just going to accept it. We don't need to change a person the way they are.
Okay, I just want to clarify something that you mentioned, because I think there's a lot of misunderstanding for people. Okay, the first thing I want to see in ABA, right, there are multiple principles. Reinforcement is the main one we implement, and then there's punishment. Now, what is the difference? Let me first just clarify that. There is a misconception. Punishment is all not that bad, by the way, because the way we define punishment is very different to the way people use the word punishment. Now, hear this. So reinforcement is to increase the likelihood of a behavior. Okay, so you can either add or remove something, but the goal is to increase a behavior. The goal of punishment, people think it's you do something bad, you hit, you scream, you look. But what is the goal in ABA? The goal of punishment is to decrease the behavior. So reinforcement is to increase the behavior, punishment to decrease the behavior. Now, for some children, if you verbally, let's say a child is hitting, okay, let's take an example of school. The teacher tells the child, go stand outside because you were not focusing in class. Now, most people will think that is punishment. Why? Because you removed the child away from the class because they were talking too much in class. But then the child comes back into the class and they talk more. So did the behavior go down? No. So was that a punishment strategy? No, because the behavior didn't go down. So what I'm trying to get at here is that we think when we tell a child, no, we're punishing them, but it's only a punisher if the behavior goes down. If you say no, and the child does it again and again and again, that means it's not a punisher. So what I just want to clarify that people, so sure, in ABA, right, we use limit. The goal is to increase a desired behavior and decrease an undesired behavior. So if you use punishment to decrease an undesired behavior, it is only a punisher if it actually reduces the behavior. And then it's not just about reducing the behavior, it's then teaching an alternate behavior that will tackle what they are getting at. So for example, I have a child, okay, and he likes throwing. Now this kid will pick up and throw anything under the sun. So anywhere, in any setting, anywhere. And obviously it's a bit of a problem because things break and etc. So we've tried multiple strategies which did not work. And eventually we found that the popping of the balloon was a sound that bothered him. So what we did was we kept the balloon right there. He threw, we popped. Okay. He didn't like that. So he was like, okay. Well, then he tries to pick up something again to chuck it. We just bring the balloon, just casually just place it right there without popping it. And he's like, okay, the balloon's back. He didn't throw it. Now, that was punishment. Technically, why? Because I reduced the behavior of throwing. But people will think popping the balloon is not a punisher. So what I'm trying to get at here is, and by the way, that was the last resort. I'm not saying use punishment. I'm saying because there was no other choice and it was actually becoming a health and safety hazard as well, because he was picking up chairs and chucking it at his parents and it's a danger, we had to try to teach him to stop. And so now just the sight of the pump, not even the balloon, is like, okay, not going to throw. And so therefore it worked as a punisher. And then I wanted to replace his throwing behavior to allow him, if he wants to experience that motion, he sure can, but he can go to the sensory room and he can chuck his balls there. So he's still getting access to that motion which he wants, but he's being taught, you do it here, not there. And if you do it outside, you're going to have to pop the balloon. So that is just something I wanted to clarify, because punishers are only effective if they decrease the behavior. That's it.
And I would just like to add something to that. It's my first, thank you explaining it so well. I love the way you explain, by the way. I just love it. I just add to that one thing that for me as a parent, what works is that it now the punishment doesn't work because I don't try it. What I do is then instead I reinforce the positive, the desirable behavior more, and automatically I see that the negative behavior is going down. For instance, if I want my child to watch the cartoon and I want him to sit and watch the cartoon instead of running around, what I did was that when he was running around, I switched off the TV. And as soon as he sat on the sofa, I switched it on. And I did it three, four times, and automatically he knew that for watching TV, I need to sit down on the sofa and watch the TV while sitting down for a while. Not obviously because he has the sensory need, so he can't sit for a longer period of time. So I can't do that. So it was just an example. So if like mouthing, he has mouthing issues. So for that, I have tried so many times. And instead of using punishment, what I do is that I reinforce the desirable behavior more, and automatically, because I'm a CBT therapist as well, so I try to incorporate some some things from that area, and for me that works. Maybe in many in your sessions and settings, for the threatening of obviously any dangerous behaviors that need to stop, and if it's a self-harming or if something that is dangerous for others in the family, of course there is a need to stop. And if for that, there's this word punishment that has so much taboo attached to it, if you use it wisely, like you just gave an example, and I think BCBAs use it very wisely. Sometimes I feel like if my son in the session recently he didn't want to study at all. And Areesa, what she did was that even if you are laying down, you have to do this and tell me any activity. And I think for him, I think that can be as a punishment as well, that even if he was in bad mood or if he wants to escape, he was still had to do it. So and then he got away with it. So it was a reinforcement as well, that okay, when I did it, I got away, but I still have to do it even if I'm in the bad mood. It's not like that if I cry, she's gonna let me go away. But at home, reinforcing the desirable behavior actually helped me not use punishment at all. So that one example I wanted to share. And moving to the most important question, that when I posted, I literally have almost 15 inbox questions with this. Why ABA is so expensive?
Okay,
Anyone?
happy to answer that.
Yes.
I mean, okay, so first of all, this is something I always clarify to people. Now, ABA is not necessarily expensive. Look, so the word expensive is subjective, right? Everyone has a different wallet to afford things. But what I always tell people, yes, it is expensive. Why is it expensive? Because take individuals like us, for example, okay? We have gone, paid in foreign currency to study from abroad, to get the best qualification that we can in our field, right? And then come back to our local country and use those skills for our local people. But we've gone abroad, we've studied abroad, or we've done it remotely and we've had to pay in foreign currency. So for us to invest in ourselves is expensive, okay? So as a result, and as we also highlighted, we have to do continuing education credits to maintain our credential, which is again in foreign currency. So that as well is possibly another added reason. I mean, I possibly am giving mine, everyone can add on theirs. But apart from
can you explain that? Can you explain the process of CEUs to everyone who's watching?
Oh, yeah. Thanks. So as a behavior analyst, as we all are, we are associated to a board in the USA, which is called the BACB, the Behavior Analyst Certification Board. And what this means is that our credential is attached to this board ethically, legally, in every way. And for us BCBAs to maintain our credential, it's not कि अब हम BCBA बन गए हैं तो बस अब बन गए हैं अब हम हर वक्त BCBA होंगे. No. In every 2-year cycle from the date that you have completed your exam, and then after that 2-year cycle, you have to complete credits. They're called CEUs, continuing education credits. Continuing education is self-explanatory, which essentially means that in order for you to remain current with the knowledge that is and the research that's being currently done, and to be up to date with the ABA strategies, you need to study and do 32 credits, which could be 1 hour, 32 hours of credits. And a minimum need to be about ethics. A minimum amount of credits need to be about supervision, because we also supervise. And
not just 1 hour, 2 hours as well. Not just 1 hour.
And some of us are also supervised. Like, for example, I have people I refer to who have more experience than even I do. So therefore, for supervision purposes, and then we have to also develop our knowledge on other on other parts of ABA, essentially. So that's what CEUs are. And so we all have to do that. And so we can only do it from places that are approved by the board, which are all essentially abroad. And then we sign up, we do these courses online, we watch videos, we read, we do quizzes, etc. So going back to what we were saying about the expensive factor, this is what I tell everyone. I said, look, I understand. So as a result, we have to bear expenses too. So what happens is I tell parents this, I said, look at it like this. Take it as an investment. I'm all for giving all my knowledge to you, mama and daddy, if you want to take it and use it. Be a sponge, use it. But what I say, come to us a couple of months. I'll teach you everything you need to know. Then you can come once a week. You don't need to come every day, because in the end, I'd rather you have the skill set to work with your kids. So yes, it will be expensive for 3 to 6 months because you're spending on us. But then I say, look, I'll give you all my knowledge, and then you can not come to me as much. I'll still be in touch with you. This also allows us to work with more kids, but it also allows the parents to be responsible for their kid, because they've invested in themselves, essentially, like we invest in us. Parents are investing in themselves and their kid, and then they can take all the strategies and put in their kid and come less to us. So take it as an investment. If you want to come to individuals who are more experienced and who have foreign experience or whatever it is, who have more knowledge than, let's say, an average person, you got to pay more. You go to a doctor for a 5-minute consultation, you pay 4,500 rupees for just 2 minutes or 3 minutes. So I don't know. Anyone else have anything to add?
I'd like to add to this that
yes, Galia, please.
Yeah, this is actually very relatable. Another thing that I often tell parents is that do not confuse ABA with special education. These are like two different fields, and you will not see your child sitting in a classroom full of 10 to 15 kids being handled by one therapist. It's not going to work like that. This is going to be one-on-one. So, for instance, if I'm working with your child, my energy, my focus is going to be on your child only. तो अगर हम उसको अगर फाइनेंशियल पर्सपेक्टिव से देखें, अगर एक 10 से 15 बच्चों की अगर क्लास है, whatever they are paying, the teacher is being paid out of that, right? But over here, this is an entirely different case, and hence there is so much hard work involved. We are not just working with the child, we're working with entire families. And like Isma said, we are willing to give every sort of information, any sort of learning opportunity to create for you guys. It's available. It's a lot of hard work that goes in. It's not like आपने just आया, आप पढ़ा के और आप चले गए. There is so much that we could do even after going home. I was just looking at Areesa's story. She was sitting and she was graphing on Excel, right? So when we go home,
I love that about her, the graphs.
Yeah, I love her graphs as well. So हम घर जाके हम पूरी programming कर रहे हैं, हम graphs बना रहे हैं. What is working, what is not working. It's a lot of effort that goes in, for sure.
Absolutely.
Well said.
Areesa, I would love that if you could add something.
The small thing I'd add is that I do exactly what Isma described. Is I recommend parents sit in and take. So I actually feel that from my own experience, when I tell parents what to do, it doesn't always happen because parents are used to be doing a certain way with their kids, and they have a history of the way they behave with their child and the way the child behaves with them. There's a whole history. But for me, I feel that when a parent sits in and a parent gets to see something that works, the parent does things that I don't need to tell them to do. It's a learning experience, right? Parents can tell me that, usually he sits down. Why is he not sitting down today? At the same time, the parent gets to see something new. So I feel that if parents are struggling and it's the same. It's about them putting in the effort. It's not necessarily that they just give the child to me and go away. It's more that you sit in and let's do it together so that you need me less.
Absolutely. Completely agree with you. I feel like that's what you need over here. But I do understand where these people are coming from. Everybody have concerns, but just as Isma said, think of it as an investment because, again, we are giving you all the knowledge that we have and we are going to be flexible and we're going to make sure whatever works for you, we're going to try to accommodate you in any way that we can. And if it doesn't work out for you, what I do personally, I can tell you, because obviously no matter what you say, if they cannot afford it, they cannot afford it. But what you can do is you can train the parents, train them in the beginning, even if they're not able to come in the beginning. Let's say, you know how we say please give a 6 months commitment, but if they're not able to do that, then I'd say we'll do online, or maybe just come and then I'll train you, and you do the same things with the kid at home, and then keep sending me videos. So this way I'm connected to you. I am going to be sharing everything with you, but definitely it's not going to take all of my time like it would if the child was coming to me. So it's going to be a bit different, but again, I'm going to be truthful and honest to my work, right? And it's going to work out for you as well, economic wise. And like both parties will be happy this way. But obviously, I completely agree with everyone who had to say about this, because it is a concern.
Expensive in the US as well? Afshaan,
Sorry?
if you could say
In
how is it there?
In the US, ABA is seen as a medically necessary treatment. It's similar to, you're needing to go see a doctor every week, or you're needing a surgery at the hospital. So यहाँ पे it's a little bit different because we have medical insurances. And so insurance covers most of it. There is some yearly cost that the parents have to pay. Some centers are pretty good about it, and they do payment plans for the whole year. Others require you to pay that amount upfront. At least where I work, we try and help out the parents as much as we can, and as a company, we take that loss. If the parents aren't able to pay their share of the out-of-pocket amount every year, we'll take that loss. We'll try. We'll say at least pay some kind of a minimum, because we don't want the parents to be responsible for it. But again, it's a little bit easier because you're paying for insurance anyways. If you want medical care, you're paying for the insurance anyway. So it's kind of like an added on benefit. But I will say that for people in Pakistan who have to pay out of pocket, and where insurance is not that big of a deal, look at it as if you were going to go get a course or a diploma. You would save up the money. You would have that money to invest in there. You'll pay up your fee or whatnot, and you'll learn. You'll get that diploma. You'll get that certification. Look at it that way. Save up the money. Go get therapy. Gain as much as you can. Learn. Try to implement it at home. Ask your therapist what you can do better. I'll talk to your behavior analyst. And with that, you don't have to do it as much then. So if you have that one chunk of money, you start investing. You do 3 to 6 months. And then, you're just needing a small amount after that. If your kid is just being seen at the clinic or at the center just once a week, it's not as bad. So look at it that way. You're investing in.
Over here, the mindset is a little bit different. If your child is come to you with a physiological, like if they are hurt and they're bleeding, they have pain, you're going to do something about it because it's evidence, you can see it, and you feel more pressured because your child is in pain and you need to do something about it. I think over here with special needs, one, that it's because of lack of awareness, the parents don't know what would work for the child. And when I think what works for your child, sometimes they feel, what, I am doing at home all the time. Why do I need to pay such a heavy amount for that? And if I come from a parent's perspective, I would say that if I got any idea that, okay, this is something that I think would work for my child, and when I searched about it and I said, okay, there's this investment that I'll have to do, I do my research, I do read how will it be effective, how can it be effective, and whenever I start something, I take a lot of time in understanding that there's a change, is there something that is actually benefiting my child. And if I feel like that, no, I do discuss it with the therapist, and I feel like that any therapy, I think not just ABA, I've seen OTs work with my child. I've seen different like remedial teacher working with my child. They put in, I think, blood and sweat. Areesa, I've seen your videos, and Areesa, I've seen the amount of knowledge you guys put in one client, and the way I have gained so much insight. I think I have learned way more than I have invested in therapy. I think you need to see that. And again, Isma, like Isma said, take it that you are investing and learning something, and maybe after a period of time you won't require me, and then you would be doing it on your own, and then you guys are there for help. And there's this
And that
question
is
that how can you learn do it without like how can you help doing ABA at home? I think you guys upload a lot of information, articles. On my page, I'll upload a lot of articles, my experiences. Isma upload a lot of videos. You can get benefit from that. I think even if they are charging a lot, I think they are giving back to the society a lot too. I think, and for the videos and the articles they upload, they don't charge for that. Areesa, I know, do a free clinic. They all have different ways of giving back to the community, and I really, this is why I do look forward to them. Qaiser, you want to say something?
Exactly. So I wanted to add on what Afshaan was saying. There are a lot of companies here in Karachi, I don't know about any other city, that are providing insurance. The reason I can say this, because a lot of my clients are on that insurance, right? Okay. So I feel like parents need to do a bit more research about this, because sometimes we don't know, so we just feel there's no insurance available. Why bother going into that hassle, right? But there is a lot of companies. Sorry, I've been talking all day. Mostly right now, most companies are offering, a lot of companies, banks, usually they're offering 20 to 30% off on these therapies. So I would request the parents to look into it and then get benefit. If you have an option, then why not? So just wanted to add that, throw it in.
Or a separate post on this. This is new information for me.
Even I would like to know. I would share that information on the page. I had no idea.
There is.
Also, just to add to this entire conversation about working with your kid, the bottom line of all of this is for parents, honestly, more than anything else, you got to make it's a lifestyle change. When you got a kid who needs different help or requires therapy, or I mean, it could be developmentally delayed, etc., you got to make a lifestyle change. You have to compromise and forego something in your life. That is just the way. In the end, it's your child. It's your child. It's not our child. I don't mean to sound like we care about your kids, which is why we work with them and we do as much as we can with them. But you got to remember, in the end, it's your child. So you have to make that lifestyle change to give them the time that they require. And you yourself as a parent will feel the feeling of a parent, not that I'm one, but I've seen it in my clients. Tooba might be able to relate. When you put that effort in your child and you see how you can help your child, that gives you 200% more confidence to work with your kid.
That's my reinforcer, Isma.
There you go. So anything else, therapists and professionals and all that kind of stuff, parents need to really try and step up their game. Even thoda sa, even 20 minutes एक दिन में थोड़ा भी कर लेना और एक भी result आ जाएगा ना, you yourself will feel like satisfied.
So. It's the same thing, like, say your child has an allergy with something, and you're going to make all sorts of changes to make sure that they're still getting their nutrition, they're still able to enjoy foods around them within that allergy. I know for some moms who have kids with egg allergy, they're very excited to make eggless cakes for their kids, because those kids cannot enjoy cakes at all parties. And I know as a kid, it's really hard not to be able to eat something that's so preferred. So, that mom will go out of her way to find the recipe, get the ingredients, and make that, and she'll be happy. It's the same thing, just the way you put in that extra hour in making that cake, you need to put in an extra hour in the day to make this therapy work for your child.
I love that example. I absolutely love it. Love it.
And back to the original question, at our center, we have this policy. I'm sure a lot of you are already following this, that there's a monthly package that parents can avail. And then there is something that we call per session. We charge per session according, like if they're coming for a day of 45 minutes. For those who cannot avail coming for the entire month, cannot afford that, maybe they can, like I said, like all of you already listed down, maybe एक दिन आके हफ्ते में 2 दिन आके सेशन ले लीजिए, गाइडेंस ले लीजिए, और फिर बाकी की चीजों में आपने घर पे इम्प्लीमेंट कर लीजिए. पर इसमें भी ये चीज जरूरी है that most of our therapists I've seen in Pakistan, they don't have the concept of training parents. If they ask you, if the parents ask you, you're going to be like, we don't train the parents. So parent training को normalize कीजिए पहले. This is a message that I'd like to give out to all the professionals, because without it, you're doing nothing, honestly. If you don't engage and you don't involve them, what are you doing even? And ABA therapy overall, it's not just Pakistan, it's overall expensive. Even not going very far, Dubai tak hi chale jaiye, it's even more expensive than Pakistan.
Compared to Dubai, it's nothing here.
Yeah,
exactly. It's mine. I was like, oh yes.
In this way that you guys are delivering something that is not even taught and trained here. So you guys are bringing something which is very unique to the country, and we need it over here. And of course, being lesser, you have to take there's a lot of load, because they're not much trained. They are there a lot, but they're not much true, authentic, trained professionals. And of course, because of which the load is a lot. And I think somewhere in the line, it is justifiable. And the way I've seen you guys work, I hats off. I think you guys are giving us and delivering us something that even if they wanted to earn, they would have stayed outside. Why are they in Pakistan?
Tooba, there's something I'd like to add. Like a lot of clients that I've heard this from, not clients, like a lot of people that have come to me and tell me that I've been going to this place for about years and years. And I'm like, okay, so is there a BCBA there? Are there any people certified over there? So instead of paying even like just a little bit to a place where there's nobody certified for about a year or so, if you paid this much, a little more than that, for 6 months somewhere else where you will see results, isn't it much better? You won't have your time won't be wasted, your money won't be wasted, because the crucial age then goes. You have to make sure that you grab that age and make sure that you do something meaningful in that age possible. Yeah. So definitely.
I also gave us a good point that like their packages, even if you. Sorry.
Yeah. Then again, I was saying I really respect the fact that yet again, of course, it is not affordable for many. And because overall, अगर हम comparison करें, हम comparison कर भी सकते हैं बाकी countries पर, इतना से नहीं भी कर सकते, because the average salaries over there, the concept is different here. The average salaries over there and then in Dubai, it's a lot different. But then again, there are people coming from Saudi, there are people coming from Dubai, बाहर से move हो रहे हैं यहाँ just because it's more affordable for them over there. So that's what needs to be.
Just to give you guys a number, at least over here in the US and the Canada, one BCBA who works independently, outside of a company, just on her own, is paid $150 an hour. That's an average amount that a BCBA over here is charges. And that's across the board, whether it's the parents paying out of pocket or whether it's what the insurance pays. Now, when you're working with a company, of course, there's clinic and there's material and there are bills and there's everything else that goes into it, and there are RBTs who are working under you. So that cost doesn't really stay $150 when it comes to you. But
just to convert, it's like 25,000 rupees.
I just checked 24,000.
Did you have 25,000 rupees? I was calculating in my head. I need to say that in rupees, right? I was like, it's 500 dirhams. What is it in rupees?
Per month of a man middle class
per hour.
Monthly salary.
So, and that's what I'm saying, that yes, it's not the payment or the salary is different in different countries, but you guys have paid in dollar. You guys have not paid in rupees for your education. You're still paying in dollar amount to get talk about it.
And I think we got another number. I'm not sure about this. In the UK, it could be anywhere between 15 to 25 per hour.
True. It's more. For the BCBA, it's even more.
I think it's more. Yeah. For sure, it's more. I've heard it's more.
Less. I remember I was talking to someone and they told me around, I think, 30 to 50 in between.
Exactly. Like one of my friends in UK, she gets like $45 pounds per hour.
Yeah.
I think it differs,
Yeah. Areesa, would you like to say something on that?
So I think the one thing that maybe hasn't been highlighted is that in majority of the other countries, the sessions that are going on are not done directly by a BCBA. They are done majority by an RBT, right?
Mm-hmm. And supervised by a BCBA.
And so like in Dubai, I still work in Dubai. I have a team of RBTs in Dubai. the supervision that I get is separate. So the other thing is that where it is right now, over here, you're paying for the whole thing. But if you go in other countries, it's possible that you are paying a monthly fee for supervision for your RBT that works with the child rather than, yes. So it's usually an added cost.
So yes, the 150 is for the supervision. The
60 to
direct
85 pounds. Check that out.
Yeah, now we got it. So around BCBA actually is 65 to 85 pound per hour in the UK. I think Areesa point is right.
Yeah, so it's about 50. I mean, the BCBA that I used to work with in London was about 50 pounds an hour. But keep in mind that the BCBA supervision is per month most of the time, whereas the RBT is the person that you're paying on a daily hour. So it comes out percentage of, yeah.
And I'll add here also that when kids start ABA over here at the very beginning, we're doing 40 hours a week. So it's not a Kanteka session. It's 8 hours in a day. So out of that 8 hours, I'll say, if the RBT is working 8 hours, we don't have one RBT working with the kid for 8 whole hours. It's maybe a team of 3 to 4 people, and they'll switch up. So they'll work 2 to 3 hours at a time. And then the BCBA is probably spending 1 hour with that child in that 8-hour period. So that's how it works. And I think that just because of the cost of the BCBA and the amount of work they need to do. And again, we don't have enough BCBAs in the world. With that being said, if the BCBA was to do 8-hour therapy with the child and the child was getting 40 hours, I think she would only have 1 kid on her caseload. Yeah. So it's a little bit different, and that also highlights how much therapy these kids can get and how much is needed for them to progress. I know in Pakistan it is different, and the good thing is they're getting therapy directly from a BCBA, which makes a big difference.
Yeah.
But over here, it's it literally is 40 hours a week. We do fade it out, and I know, Tooba, you were mentioning earlier that you start implementing ABA with your child, and the eventual goal is that we fade therapy out and parents are able to implement some therapy on a maintenance level. So we're still working on skills as the child grows up, but we don't want them to be in therapy all their lives. We do want them to be at a point where they're independent, they're functional, and then we equip the parents with all the with our whole toolkit essentially, so they can work with the kids as needed. But the goal here is that we provide therapy. It's temporary. We try and make this child independent. We try and make them functional. We try and make them adapt to more typical environments like school, and we then let them go.
And I think this is what Isma also said, that we want to give our knowledge to you so that you continue doing it in the future, and you don't need us anymore. I think this is the professionality of a true BCBA, that they don't want the client to be dependent on them, but instead they want the child to be independent. And I think that is what shows that but the first thing that I hear is, as a parent, that all the BCBAs are after money. And I think if this is the idea, the mindset, if you have, of course you're not after money. They ask me that they even ask if we have a consultation, they ask for so much money for hours. They all are here and they don't want anything in return. They have given almost 1.5 hours to me, and if they were after money, I think they wouldn't even invest so much time on a free live session, and they're already given so much knowledge out. So I think this is something, that is why I really wanted all of you together, and I wanted to end the session with this question, because this was something that I get all the time from parents, that if I keep posting Areesa, Isma, Faiza, sometimes Ghalia, that and parents come inbox me that, what, I'm sorry, but I will not go to ABA because they charge so much. They don't even give time without taking in money, and I do educate them, because I know it's been around 1.5 years now that my son is taking ABA, and I'm completely, I think, and one thing I would say, that people say that if my son is, or my child has grown out of the early intervention, ABA wouldn't work. I think it will still work. It's still working for my son. And that is another myth that I want to talk about. And my life has completely changed, not just because of ABA, but also the way it is being implemented. And I'm glad that we have at least a few, I know it's there less, but true and real, authentic professional who are available in Pakistan. And I am really, really glad that we have you guys here, because in the world of, especially in Pakistan, we really need professionals like you. And I'm glad and I'm so happy that you all took out time and come here on the live session and talk about something that is very uncomfortable, because these are the questions that directly threats. It's a threatening question to your profession. But I think this is where this proves that you are true professional, because you are talking about something that was uncomfortable. So I'm so happy, and thank you so much. Anything
Thank
if
you
you
so
want to
much for
end?
having us.
And Tooba, thank you for being so brave to first of all, bring us all together, which is amazing, and tackle topics that are so relevant and important, particularly in a society such as Pakistan, which where there is limited knowledge. So, because over here that there is very much a trend of this parent said this, I'm going to do this. In fact, I had a client come to me comparing their child to another client, and I said, why are you listening to them when your child is not even the same? So it's very important to not just go with everything people hear and clarify it. So thank you for being brave to cover a topic that is a bit touchy, but so happy we got together finally and we could discuss.
I know. Long overdue. Everyone's talking about it. You should one should do it. But thank you so much for having us. It was lovely. I think we tackled a lot of real serious topics, and it was a lot of fun.
I also wanted to mention one thing that all of us do, Areesa, Isma, Qaiser, and Afshaan. I'm sure all of us are usually even replying to messages that we get in our Facebook inbox. Parents की queries आ रही होती हैं. If we were really after money, why would we even be spending so much time replying to those queries? We're not getting anything out of that. I even
sharing videos on a daily basis, how to do such things like
Absolutely. This is what I said. You guys are giving back to the community also. And yes, to survive, you have to earn as well. And this is how the community economy works. And we have to accept that. It's something hard to accept. But when you see how wonderful and magical ABA is going to be for you and your child, it's going to change the game. It changed the game for me. And I'm so thankful to ABA and, of course, Areesa to do that for us. And I'm glad that we have you four in Pakistan working right now, and Afshaan to guide us through for my page. Afshaan is the head of behavioral analysis for Team Neurodiversity, and she with the time difference also, she keeps helping the parents who approach us. So I'm so happy and honored that we have professionals like you, and keep it up. And I don't have words. I'm just so happy to.
I just wanted to say this has been really great, and I actually think that this has been a huge awareness session. You know, like you helped bring up a lot of things and a lot of awareness for the field as a whole. So thank you so much for putting us all together.
Thank you.
And you're a super mama for how much you manage.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you.
I mean, you're an inspiration for all the mamas watching this talk.
She's data very well, just to tell you. She's got all her data collection done.
I love it.
Thank you so much, guys. And I hope we are going to do something again soon.
Inshallah.
And take care. And if anybody wants to connect, please, I have linked all the pages they run. I have linked all the places they work at. Ghalia is the one, she is in Islamabad. Faiza, Isma, Areesa, they are in Karachi. Yay. Ghalia, please. So we can meet you, and Afshaan is in US, but they are all available. They're just message away. So please do get connected. They are the best on the field right now in Pakistan. So thank you so much, guys, again. And I'll just wrap it up. And those who have any questions, just comment below. And soon, if there's anything that I will have to refer them, I will let them know. Thank you so much, everybody who's watching. Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.